What's the best way you've cheated the system? My high school was somewhat strict about absences. They would do handwriting comparisons with previous notes. The first time I was late, tardy, whatever, I took the actual note my mother would write and rewrote it in my exact crappy 15-year-old handwriting on loose leaf paper, signed my mother's name, and handed it in. When the folks in the principal's office smelled BS, they called my mother and asked her if she wrote the note, which of course she did. For the rest of the year I was writing my own notes for skipping school. When I landed from my international flight, there was what looked like a 1-2 hours line for nothing to declare and no line for something to declare. One of the options to declare things was food items, and since I had a can of cashews in my back, I just wrote down can of nuts value $2 and went through the declare line. Needless to say, they didn't give a crap about my nuts, but they scanned me through and I was on my merry way in 0 minutes. When I was 16, a friend and I created a website with fake reviews of concerts in the Washington, D.C. area that we didn't actually go to. Once we had built it up to our satisfaction, we used it as credentials to gain backstage access to a huge D.C. area music festival 3 years in a row. A simple call to the radio station that sponsored the event got us free passes and access to hang out with and interview most of the bands, including Cypress Hill, Coldplay, Social Distortion and Offspring. Nobody ever caught on, and oddly, nobody seemed to be suspicious of our age. During a business trip, a flight I had was cancelled shortly before takeoff on Christmas Eve, so we all piled back in line to get our flights rescheduled. After hours of waiting, I finally get a flight leaving the next day. Exhausted now, I ask the ticket guy if they let people sleep in the airport, obviously knowing that you aren't. Small airport. He tells me no, so I explain my situation. I was over an hour away from where I stayed the previous night, was out of money, and asked if they would put me in a nearby hotel. He said all he could do was write a voucher for a cab to send me back to where I left for the airport. I said okay, but it would be way more expensive than a hotel. Again he said it was all he could do and wrote a cab voucher for $250. So now I'm just peed at the whole situation, that they would pay $250 for a cab, but not $80 for a hotel. I hail a cab, hop in and explain him the situation. The cabbie is now P2 because he doesn't want to have to drive an hour the next day to get me, but also doesn't want to turn down $250. So we're on our way out of town and I'm talking with the cabbie. I ask him if he just turns those vouchers in for cash. He tells me that he'll get a check in the mail eventually. Then it dawns on me. I ask him if he has $125 cash on him. He does. So I tell him to take me to Holiday Inn by the airport and give me $125 and keep the voucher. He thinks for a minute. It clicks with him and now he doesn't have to pick me up the next day. So that night I stayed near the airport, took the shuttle in the morning for free and made $45, which I used for Christmas presents. Small victory. Felt good sticking it to American Airlines though for jerking me around all day. This is a very catch me if you can idea. Just gonna print up a few vouchers. I once had a $20 fine for an overdue book at the library, so I brought it back and reshelved it myself. The next day I had a friend of mine go to the library and check out the book. The system said it was the book that was out, so they scanned it back in and my friend checked it out. I later went to check my outstanding fine and it was erased. They must have assumed that the mistake was on their end, which is what I was banking on. I would call my parents collect, and then ask if they could pick me up instead of recording my name. Oh, the number of times my mom got a collect call from soccer practice is over, come pick me up. I learned that you can get into almost any special event by wearing a chef coat. Even just carrying one and walking like you know where you're going will work every time. Most people don't want to look stupid by asking you who you are. The local Dairy Queen in my neighborhood is routinely dirty and run by indifferent teenagers. An ice cream cone will often be a half-assed, sloppy mess. Bathrooms are usually pretty grim, etc. But now and then I get a hankering for a dipped cone and it's the closest place to my house. So one evening I called them up and the conversation went something like this. Dairy Queen person. Hello. Me. Hi. Who am I speaking to? Dairy Queen person. Jen. Me. Hi Jen. It's fake name. From DQ location in nearby town. I'm probably not supposed to do this, but we just had a surprise inspection. Some busters from head office were in today and really gave us the runaround. They were alright, but we had to scramble to get organized. Before they left, I overheard them saying that they were headed to your location and I thought I'd give you a heads up. Dairy Queen person. OMG. Thanks. We only have X many people working tonight too. OMG. An hour or so later, I go to the DQ to get a cone and the place is spotless. Hot water on the freshly mopped floor was evaporating. The bathrooms were spotless. There was a lineup, but it was moving with an incredible efficiency. My cone was made by one person while another helped with the transaction. The cone was perfect. I pull this one about once a year for kicks and try to do it at a different fast food place each time. McDonald's Monopoly promotion. A few years ago they did a partnership promotion with Best Buy, where every game piece had 2 stickers. One was a Monopoly game piece for filling in the board. The other was either a free item from McDonald's or a $1 or $5 Best Buy coupon. You could send in a request for game pieces using a self-addressed envelope to the sweepstakes office. My friend calculated out the cost and determined that with stamps, envelopes, address stickers he could get each game entry for about 75 cents. And that the average return in Best Buy dollars was around 1.50 per entry. He hired a few friends on a Saturday to sit around and stamp envelopes, paid each person like $50 and beer, and ended up generating a few thousand entries. Basically at the end of the day he ended up turning about $2,000 in entry fees into about $4,000 of physical Best Buy coupons. At that time they didn't have any restrictions on the coupons usage, so you could put hundreds of coupons together on one purchase. He bought a ton of PS3 games, a projector for his room, a new sound system, etc. Additionally, he realized that the coupons each had a code on them which could be entered into the website and used online as well. So he ended up making about $8,000 in Best Buy dollars by using each coupon twice. He then sold about enough of the stuff on eBay to make up all the money he spent on the whole ordeal, allowing him to keep all the rest. As an additional bonus, he got thousands of free McDonald's food coupons, everything from small fries or ice cream up to combo meals, that he left outside his door in a bowl, feeding our dorm for the next few months. Unfortunately, despite all the entries, we were never able to win a single one of the Monopoly game prizes. I guess the chances are just that low. When I was a teenager I worked for one of those crappy call centers with one of those horrible micromanaging plans. So they would divide us into teams with team leaders. So one day they switched our teams and I noticed that they never placed me in another team, therefore never accounted for. So I would go in every day, clock and go home or whatever, then come back and clock out. Eventually I got too lazy for this and just paid a girl to clock me in and out. This lasted for a month and a half before anyone ever noticed. How you even outsourced your non-work? About 10 years ago, I had a summer job that used online timesheets. When I started, my name was spelled wrong on the system. I had it corrected and received a new login, but they didn't disable the old one. For 2 months I completed 2 timesheets every week and got paid double. Nobody ever found out. At Six Flags one year, I rented a tube for the water slides for X dollars, but when I went to return it, they only offered a X $2 refund. I looked at the long, single file line which consisted of people waiting to rent and people waiting to return tubes. It was so simple. When I was in 8th grade, my friends and I ditched school quite a bit for a semester. This was back before automated systems that called home for absences. Both my parents worked so they wouldn't have got the call at home anyway. The next semester started and a friend of my mom worked at the school and called me into the office. She asked me what was up with my grades. Apparently she would check the grades for her friends' kids. She showed my current grades. D's and I's, incompletes, a nice F. My GPA is a 0.63. I say whoa, I have no idea. Those have to be wrong. She then tells me to get her the right grades from my teachers. She gives me a form and sends me on my way. Nothing on the paper but 3 columns. Class, grade, teacher's signature. I was freaking out walking around to my teachers. I then decided that since I had been actually going to my classes that semester so far, I should ask for my current semester grades. So I asked all of them for my grade for the current semester instead of the prior one. All of my current grades were A's and B's and all of the teachers signed it and didn't question the form at all. I took the form back to my mom's friend and she changed all my grades. My parents never knew about it. Poor college student with small crack in my car windshield. Needed to get annual car inspection done but not able to afford to replace windshield. They'd fail you for even a small ding. Mixed up Elmer's glue, white out, and put a little bit of dirt in the center. Instant bird poop over the crack and an easy pass of the inspection. My brother would do something similar with an overdue inspection sticker. He'd crazy glue a leaf on the outside of the windshield, over the sticker. Cops driving by his car would assume the leaf got stuck there, I guess. He never got pulled over. When the leaf would wear out, he just glued another over it. Okay, so in Ireland we have two official languages, Irish and English. Because of our constitution, all services provided by the state have to be in the two official language. The funny thing is though that the majority of Irish people cannot speak their mother tongue, Irish. Whenever I do my taxes or any other business with the state, I always conduct it through Irish or demand that it be conducted through Irish. The advantage of this being that the queue line and waiting time for things to be processed for things such as passports, tax credits etc. is always minimal or practically non-existent. I don't like the way my compatriots don't speak our language, but it sure is a massive advantage to me. Also, if the state cannot provide the service through Irish, they try to fast track you through their system of whatever so as to try and not pee you off so you won't complain. I love it. Furthermore, it works for the police here too. If you demand to be arrested in Irish and the police can't speak it well, then they have denied you your constitutional rights, which always looks good for you if things go to court. From time to time, I had some business at one of the local universities. Naturally, parking was scarce, although there were a couple lots in prime locations with available spaces. Naturally, these were all marked for official use only. So I made an official looking placard for my sign that proclaimed I was a guest of university relations and I'd leave it on the dashboard. Worked every time. Work from home computer programmer. Moved to China without telling my company. Still do my work via internet. Still commit to SVN. Still respond to emails. Still make conference calls, etc. Benefits include cheap rent, cheap food, cheap girls. Don't have to have my mom call and yell at me about random crap anymore. ATC rum and cokes all day long. Avoid the first $90k of US taxes. Out of the country 330 plus days. Avoid Chinese taxes because they think I'm an extended tourist. Learn a language. Handmade suits for $90 for $90 for $90 for. I had a trig teacher in HS that was a total son of a bee. His tests were killer hard and there was always a huge curve with the raw top score in the 50-60% range. But he would use a bell curve, so in my small class there would only ever be one A, 100%, and two Bs, 87% and 80% or something like that, and then 15 CFs. Jerk. Tests were the only grades in the class, too, so it was all doom all the time. Anyway, I was in that class with a valedictorian and a guy that got a perfect on his SATs in 10th grade that was some kind of savant. So on the third test, there were 6 answer multiple choice scantrons. I figured out that if I divided the answers one by all the terms in the question multiplied together, only one answer would come out to an even number or a clean fraction and the rest would be like 14/267ths or something. The clean answer was always the answer and there was always a clean answer. From that point on I finished every test first, always got 2 questions wrong, on purpose, and was always at the top of the curve, thus getting a 100%. The best part was that he accused me of cheating like 5 times and took me to the office, etc., but couldn't prove it. Won the final. 2 hours, I finished the test in 20 minutes and got a perfect score. He flipped out and took me to the office and accused me of all manner of things, but he couldn't prove anything, so he took a major hit every time. I told him what I did later on. He was stupefied. My best cheating the system moment wasn't even clever or really even cheating the system. It was just outright lying mixed with extreme confidence. When I was 17, a bunch of my friends who were already 18 wanted to go to the strip club. I didn't have a fake kid, but I didn't want to miss out, so I just went with them anyway. As we're walking in, everyone gives the woman at the front podium. There was no outdoor bouncer, their IDs. I'm the last in line and I just give her my real driver's license. She looks at it for a minute and then looks at me with confusion on her face. This says you're only 17. Figuring there's nothing to lose, I just replied, no it doesn't. She looked back at me, shrugged and said, okay, go ahead. Boom, strip club Jedi. This happened many years ago when I was still a kid. As I was old enough to figure out the truth about Santa Claus, Mom took me shopping with her for Christmas. She was buying gifts for the whole family, so the shopping cart was quite full. The department store ran a well-publicized contest where each customer could have all their purchases reimbursed. It went like this. At checkout, the cashier asks you to pick an envelope. If you get the magic voucher, you just walk away and don't pay anything. Obviously, she asked the innocent kid to pick the envelope. Remember that I'm a small kid. When the cashier hands me the envelopes, the lighting is well positioned behind them, and I can see through. They're thin and I quickly realize most of them are empty. Only one contains a piece of paper. The rest is family history. Not an impressive feat, but it made my day as a young boy. Many moons ago, I was an on-call engineer for a small local ISP. I got paid late one night and had to head into one of the facilities. I had keys to the office and the elevator, but at some point recently they had installed a keyed gate system to gain access to the garage. My elevator key only worked the garage elevator and I didn't have the key card for the gates. My solution? I just moved and had some junk in the back of my van. I tied a large frying pan to an extension cord and fished it under the exit gate and across the sensor. The gate opened on my first try. I've since used that technique many times, with some mixed success. FWIW. None of my tire irons have ever worked. They also don't slide anywhere near as nicely. I think the frying pan was best tool for this that I've ever tried. I love how people don't think of putting actual security on a warehouse by where engineers work. Working in the city, I really didn't want to pay $80 a week for parking. I noticed there was very little differentiation between the 0 and 0 they used on plates. I registered custom plates 0100 and 1101 and parked on the street every day. 9/10 times they would put 010101 on the ticket. Never came back to me and I saved a ton of cash. A few years ago, when 56k dial-up was still around and high speed was coming into play, I didn't have a lot of money to get DSL or cable, so I downloaded the 10-hour trial of Nitzero and tried that out. Once my hours ran out, I became curious. I uninstalled and completely cleared off Nitzero and reinstalled the trial again. Lo and behold, it worked. So for the next few months or so I would keep doing this and it continued to work. Free internet for months. On top of that, I managed to find a hack that would remove the black ad bar it would place on the bottom of your screen. All was well, but Nitzero eventually caught on. I don't know if it was an oversight on their part or if my situation was a fluke. Sure, it was a pain in the butt to uninstall and reinstall it every time, but it allowed me free internet when I didn't have the cash to shell out for the good stuff. Fake press passes are the clipboard and tie of the entertainment world. Just hold them up and keep walking. Years ago, back when Circuit City still existed, they had a video game sale going on so that PC games $10 and under were buy one get one free. Except, there was a glitch in the system, so that if you buy a game under $10, you can get a game of any price for free. So, I just rolled up with some $5 casual game and a copy of Age of Empires 3 Collector's Edition, and the cashier asked me for $5. I paid him and walked out happy. And that is why Circuit City does not exist anymore. Way back in the mists of time, my family bought our first home computer, an Atari 400. That sucker cost a fortune, about $1,800 in 1982. However, the place we bought it was a discount furniture and electronics store with a lowest price guarantee, good for as long as they sold the item. Do you see where this is going? We went back in 6 months and got a rebate of $300. A year or so later, we got back another $600. By this time, They had changed their policy to for 30 days, but our original sales receipt said for as long as they sold the product. By the time they quit selling the Atari 400, we had gotten back $1,650 of our $1,800 purchase. Nothing fancy, no tricks, just reading the fine print. A few years ago, my credit card allowed me to top up an online sports betting account with cash. It went like this. Step 1. Charge $5,000 to credit card. Get $5,000 in cash on gambling site. Step 2. Immediately take the $5,000 in gambling credit and withdraw it to checking account to pay off credit card. Step 3. Repeat. Because of the rewards program, I got $100 check for every $5,000 I charged. It was like printing money and required no work at all, just a bunch of online transfers. It only worked for a few months before the CC company caught on, but I made about $2,500. 15 years old, in a ski resort in Colorado. Needless to say, I liked the mini arcade they had in the basement. Really just like 8 game machines in an otherwise empty room waiting for bored suckers like me to waste money, and I probably spent about $20 there the first 2 days. Then one day, I noticed a coin slot on the change machine. Not at the bottom, but at the top. It was taped over, but the tape had been ripped. So I put a quarter into it, just to see. And 2 quarters came out the bottom. Strange. Let's try it again. Same result. Needless to say, I completely emptied the change machine that day, and then complained that the change machine was emptied. They refilled it, and I emptied it again. They became a little suspicious when I was carrying around a gigantic tub of quarters like an old grandmother at the Vegas slots, but they never called me on it and they never made me repay anything. All the best secrets are taped over. I went to a Catholic HS and was forced to go to mass once a week. They'd ring a bell and everyone would walk into the gym and mass. For 3 years I would quickly open up a side door, hop in my car, go buy an Egg McMuffin, and hang out at a nearby Harley dealer. After an hour, I'd head back to school and go to my next class. The one time I did go, I was right in the first row. I gulped down all of the wine before the third person, out of 400, could even get to it. The lady serving it was straight horrified. Getting hammered on the blood of Christ is freaking metal. My friends and I went to the Obama inauguration, and since driving and walking were out of the question, we took the metro. Well, after the ceremony ended, we headed towards the nearest metro stop, which happened to be near the Air and Space Museum. The stop was closed with a huge crowd of people trying to get in, so we went back to the museum and played poker for an hour and a half. After that we checked back at the station. Still closed, so we walked up 3 blocks to another station, also closed. Then we were told we had to walk all the way across the mall. At this point it was like 4 or 5 in the evening and we had been up since 3:30 AM and had been traipsing around in heavy winter gear for all of it. So we sucked it up, walked the mile or 2 across the mall to the one open station, and there was a line because it wasn't open yet. So we waited in a nearby food court for an hour until the station opened, and then we got back in line. After we got inside the station, it was a solid mass of people trying to get back to Virginia. It would have easily been another hour or 2 waiting for the train. Then I noticed that the Maryland-bound platform was nearly empty, so I said, "Hey, let's ride up a few stops then get on the train headed the other way." Everyone agreed this was at least a better idea than waiting. After 2 stops the platforms were empty and we got off that train and right onto another headed towards home. I was quite pleased as we rode past the platform of people who would be stuck waiting for empty trains for hours. How to get into the pit area of a concert when you have nosebleed tickets. Being broke, I bought concert tickets at the last minute and got stuck at the very top of the arena in the crappy nosebleed seats. From such a high vantage point, I was able to look down on everybody and noticed the line entering the front stage pit area. I wanted in, damn it. I walked downstairs to the entrance of this line, whipped out my phone, and pretended to make a call. I then started to pay attention to the stadium employees and the manner in which they accepted admission into this most holy of areas. It was a repetitive, mundane task that robots will no doubt be doing within 5 years. Expressionless, they seemed to care about one thing only, whether or not you were wearing the red paper bracelet that came with these tickets. Feeling the warmth of the light bulb in my head, I scanned the lobby for crappy local band flyers and found one that was bright red. I brought it into the bathroom, folded it across an inch-long strip a few times, then tore it off. I flipped it over to the side that was blank and affixed it to my wrist with a piece of gum. "I like your earrings" is all I had to say to distract robot lady and fill her tender loins with a rush of endorphins that threw her off guard as I waved my wrist by her and proceeded to the pit area, right in front of the stage. Rock. If I'm buying something online, say web hosting for example, a lot of those companies have an affiliate program. I'll sign up for the affiliate program and buy the service through myself. Recently, big conference, 18th floor, top of the building, everyone going down the limited number of elevators at breaks, big lines. People are not going down the stairs by one floor because if you hit down you just get a completely packed elevator. My solution? Go down a floor, hit up, board empty elevator, welcome people on at the 18th and enjoy my quick trip down. The greatest hacks are the simplest, though it would have been better if it didn't fail the categorical imperative. Of course, if I wasn't an American I'd just take the stairs all the way down. Back in high school, if you lost a book, they would give you a new one, and you had to pay for the replacement by the end of the year in order to pass. That is, unless you found and returned the book, in which case they wouldn't charge you. On the first day of school I would take all my books home. The second day I would report all my books missing and get replacement copies, which I would leave in my locker. On the last day of school I would turn in both copies of all books. I never had to bring books to and from school ever. I was applying to colleges, and having slacked off all through high school, I was getting rejected from every one of them. I finally applied to a university I had no chance of getting into, and marked down that I was Native American, though I'm very clearly white. A month later, I learned that I had gotten in, contingent on me completing a summer in a program for minorities, focused on bringing up their skills and background to their more qualified peers. I accepted. Had a very interesting summer, a whole other story, worked my butt off for 4 years, and graduated with honors. Dumpster diving. It's profitable. Where to start? I've got a million of these stories. I've made quite the profit selling things that stores throw out. I live in a college town and at the beginning of summer when everyone is leaving, my friends and I hit up the campus and apartment dumpsters for free stuff. I found a gift bag full of jeans with receipts stapled to them. Must have been an unwanted Christmas present. The dates were from December. Went back to the department store they were from and returned them. Made about $80. I went on a date with this guy to the movies. The theater had free refills on popcorn. He grabbed a giant empty popcorn bucket that was sitting on top of a garbage can, walked back around and got it refilled. Saved like $8. Then we got married. A friend of mine in college knew exactly when the Krispy Kreme guy came to take out the old boxes of donuts and put fresh ones in the dorm food shop. He'd basically meet him out at the dumpster to intercept the still warm donuts from that day. He had boxes of them stacked floor to ceiling and was always handing them out to strangers. Maybe dumpster diving isn't for everyone, but I have no shame. Sometimes, when no other car is around, I go over the speed limit to reach my destination faster than intended. It really is win-win. You monster. Got into the 2010 Vancouver Olympic men's gold medal game for free because I had a volunteer badge for a charity that wasn't working there that day. This goes back a ways when you could still park in front of airports, but got a ticket if you parked longer than 15 minutes or so, at least in Syracuse. I pulled in with some buddies to pick up a friend flying in, but we got there a few hours early for some beers. When I pulled up, there was a car behind me with a parking ticket on it. I grabbed the ticket and put it on my car. Hours later, the same ticket was on my car, which was written for the other car. My dad did something similar. Long-term parking was $35, but getting your car towed was only $15. Sheriff told him to stop after the 4th or 5th time. I was a senior in high school. It was about 2 weeks before I was done with high school permanently, and I was in band. Our concert was over. We were just all sitting around doing nothing. Well, I had a car, so I left early. No biggie, right? Wrong. I get called to the principal's office for ditching. So, the conversation goes, "Principal, you were reported as leaving school early by Mr. Teacher, why did you leave school early? Me, we weren't doing anything in class, so I left. Principal, did you have permission from Mr. Teacher to leave? Me, number. Principal, well, you have two options. 1. Corporal punishment, or 2. In-school suspension. Me, thinking, could I just take out of school suspension? Principal, you want me to suspend you from school? Me, sure, I'll take OS for ditching class. Principal, okay, if that's what you want. And true story, that's how I got to spend my final days of school at home watching TV, while everyone else was stuck at school. I was so excited I gamed the system that I laughed all the way home from school. I walked in and couldn't wait to tell someone what I'd done. Unfortunately, my parents didn't get why it was so funny. Didn't matter. I was released from prison 2 days earlier than the rest of my cellmates. Those were 2 days of win for me. I once worked a job for 3 years. The whole time I worked there I had an imaginary kid for the purpose of leaving early and getting off work. When I first started there I only had intentions of staying a few months until I found something I liked better. I had always been a bit jealous of people with kids getting to leave early and take off work with no questions asked, so I decided to try it for fun. Long story short, I ended up moving up at that company and had to keep this terrible lie going for 3 long years. I thought about my imaginary child getting some terrible illness and killing him off like a sitcom actor with a contract renewal coming up, but I actually grew fond of little Rodney over time. We had been through so much together. I bet I could have gotten an entire month paid off if I did kill him off though. Throughout college I had a sneaky way of cheating the system when studying for tests. Whenever it was time for me to study I would send out an email to my entire class saying something like, hey, I'm working on a study guide for the test. If anyone wants to send me a copy of theirs I will send you mine. Just to make sure we haven't missed anything of course. Within an hour I would get several study guides sent to me and I would send them back a copy of another person's study guide. In the end everyone is happy and none the wiser. I've tweaked a moped scooter so it can reach 60 miles per hour. Suitable for all my needs. I leave the moped plate on it so I can be exempt from certain traffic laws and insurance requirements. I can use the bike lanes when I need to get around traffic. Chuck E. Cheese is at my friend's birthday party. That one game where the light shoots bulb to bulb really quickly around a circle and you have to press the button when the light lands in your zone? Well yeah, the door was unlocked and I stole a fat roll of tickets. Probably made my year. Every day on my way to work, I got a can of ginger ale. Every day, 25 cents plopped into the machine. Every day, a cold can of refreshing soda fell out. Until one fateful day, I dropped my quarter in and 2 gleaming cans of ginger ale popped out. Then, in that instant of time, I knew that destiny had greater plans for me. That was the day I became enlightened. I had reached spiritual soda moksha. The universe revealed itself to me. I understood universal constants. I could find Earth-like planets in a blink of an eye. Mother Nature herself bowed before my power. Some call me a god, others, the second Buddha, but most call me Bob Ross. I have on numerous occasions outsourced my day job. I have only told this to a few very close friends and they are so stunned by the brilliance that they look at me in awe. Here is how I did and still do it. I volunteer for jobs at work that I know A. the management will let me work on from home. B. I can outsource to really cheap but super skilled overseas people. I work in project management, business analysis and IT. Basically I will scope the task to a selection of overseas guys at a fraction of what I make and then just kick back, ride my bike, get fit, surf Reddit, go to the beach and generally enjoy life. I then check on progress and advise my company. The work is often better than I can do and my work think I am a freaking legend. SHHH. Like this video, but quietly so you don't wake up the sleeping papa. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check out another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.